Chet, are you ready?
Shh.
Put your phone down.
Put your phone down, Chet. It's time to kick it. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to another exciting episode of Hard Headed, where we are extremely practical and realistic here on this show.
To the extreme.
Wow. To my right is always Mr. Chet Sears, and sitting across from me, Mr. Matt Amos. How y'all doing today, fellas?
Doing pretty well.
Hey, I'm pretty excited about what we got coming up for our listeners. Chet, you want to talk a little bit about that before we jump in?
We got some stuff that's very exciting coming forward.
Ooh, tell me.
Yes.
What's
Well, I mean, if you're a true fan of Hard Headed and you're listening now, so you're a true fan, you may want to display it to the world, and we may be able to find a way to help you do that. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So keep listening. We appreciate that.
Stay
Hashtag
tuned.
join the conversation. And stay tuned. We got some announcements coming down the pipe.
I'm confused, but good.
With that, we're going to start out with our first segment like we always do. What's on your mind? We're going to go with Mr. Chet Sears today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Matt. Hold that thought.
So what's on my mind today is like the misuse of terms.
Okay. Examples?
So I'll give you an example. There are people that frequently say things like, come over to my house for a barbecue. And you go to that house and they're grilling burgers. That's not a barbecue,
Okay.
right?
Yep,
You with me?
I am. And I'm so excited that we're going to go down this journey
Yes.
together.
What? Do you say come over to my house for a barbecue?
Yeah.
You do? Yeah. And what do? Are you like grilling burgers or frying fish or like just say what you're doing?
Well, I'm not. I would if I was
Just say
frying
what you're
fish,
doing.
I would say you want to come over for fish fry.
Fish fry. But barbecue is not like all things that involve fire and cooking. It's not.
That's called grilling.
It's grilling. You know, if you're using a grill, I mean, if you're going to smoke some meat and apply some kind of barbecue sauce on it, I guess you can get away with that. But I mean, the other day, Troy, I had a friend of mine that was like, "Ooh, this seafood boil is fantastic," and he took a picture of a tin pan in a pellet smoker. Can you believe that? Like, boil? Yeah. This is a seafood boil, and there's not a pot with a big flame coming. No, we're smoking it on the pellet smoker.
I don't know what this guy was thinking.
I don't know. I mean,
You're about to find out.
So, for our listeners that aren't in the know, Matt, this is I don't know, a month or two ago, had some social media post about some fantastic seafood boil in air quotes, and he took a picture of some crab legs in a tin pan on a smoker. Matt, my friend, that's not a boil.
It absolutely is. So
Do tell.
So we didn't have access to your traditional pot, and where you're using the propane and actually doing the boil.
Boiling water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you do is you actually put that water in the pan, put your Old Bay in the water, and we would rotate. So we would stick it in the
smoker.
in the Traeger. We'd stick it in the Traeger, and with that heat, what does that water begin to do? It begins to boil. And then what you do is because all of your
what's in
foods.
there? Is there any food in this thing you're talking about right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there,
like in the water.
Yeah. So we put the we learned this later because this was an experimental
boil,
right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It definitely seemed like somebody shooting from the hip here. But
what you do is you put your so we had clams, we had king crab legs, we had snow crab legs, we had shrimp, which we added later because they cook faster.
Yeah.
We had corn, potatoes.
We know this.
Sausage.
Yeah.
And we had one pan that was all seasoned up, and then we had one pan that was no seasoning because one person didn't want seasoning on anything.
Yeah. And I understand that as well for dietary reasons and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
So-
not going to make fun of that person.
So what you do is you actually have to, instead of just letting them all boil at one time, you have to kind of rotate them. So you have to kind of stir and get them all down into the boil.
You're even having a hard time saying it.
I'm trying to describe the process. But
It sounds like a lot of work.
It sounds good. I'm not
So-
going to say that this is going to be crappy food.
so this is
But-
coming from somebody who traditionally does a traditional boil. And she
But
said,
here's let me stop
listen,
you right there.
Stop. You
stop.
you don't get to interject right
You
here.
stop. It's called a boil, not a traditional boil. It's called a boil. Like it's a boil. So don't start renaming. We're not changing vocabulary to this is the traditional boil and this is the alternative boil. Like a boil is a boil.
No.
There's a big pot.
There are
There's
multiple
a big fire.
There are multiple ways to now boil.
Just like air frying.
Yeah, it's a different way to air fry.
But you
Or a
call it
different way
air
to
fry. But you call it air fry. You don't call it fry.
But so this is just a different process. It's the
So
same.
call it something different.
No, it's a boil.
No.
It's a Traeger boil.
It's a smoke. I'm smoking this
You're
with
not-
some water.
No.
Wait, it's a smoke boil.
Now, it's,
If it's an air fryer, then it's a smoke boil.
Yes.
That's gotta be it.
but it's still a boil.
No.
So it's just a classification of boil. So now what you guys, I'm bringing you guys into the 21st century.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
of
Because
boil.
I have a big pot and a big burner.
Right, but
a
what I'm
couple
saying,
of them.
but listen to what I'm saying is that the person that came up with this, since we didn't have the traditional means for the boil, instituted a new way to boil, and we figured this out because she's like, you know what? After doing that way, she goes, that was actually so much easier, so much cleaner than a traditional boil. She goes, you didn't have to worry about the flies and all this kind of stuff, and she's like, she goes, and it tasted just as good. And I'm telling you, I peeled. That crab meat was absolutely perfect. We threw the shrimp on with about 5 minutes left, and those were cooked to perfection. The corn, because again we didn't have enough room in those pans, we actually kind of pre-cooked those in milk and butter, and then she threw those in into the boil to get that flavor into everything else, and it was phenomenal.
I'm not knocking
It
it.
was so good.
I would have loved to have been there and eaten that, but we would have had a conversation about what we call it.
It's a boil.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, I'm not. No.
It's just a different way.
Like
to
if
boil.
somebody,
I'm gonna say you have to say it's a smoke boil.
you can't use just boil. You've got to use some other terminology because that's just false advertising. If you're like, come over to my house for a shrimp boil, and I go over there and there's just your Traeger going, false advertising.
Nope.
Like that's not cool.
Or crawfish boil, and you just got some smoke heating up over there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
but see,
wondering.
you guys misunderstand because you probably don't have Traegers. So you misunderstand how a Traeger actually works. So if you want to smoke with a Traeger, you put it on a low setting, you put it on smoke, super smoke, or if you have an older Traeger, you're putting it on like the one.
I'm just sitting over here not coming off the top rope when I can.
if you want to, wait. If you want,
Because I could put my smoker on top of a Traeger and it would crush it.
if you want to boil with the Traeger, you pour some water in it, and it'll heat up the water, and you boil, right?
No, that puts your fire out. So what?
I know exactly what they do.
No,
And
you don't.
I know you could crank it up and make it really hot and have a direct flame. I understand all of that. But
Apparently
it's
you
still,
don't.
No, it's still not a boil.
It's a
just
boil.
not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you don't have to rotate things in a boil. You just put it all in a pot.
Because this
That's
is-
boiling water.
Again.
Not like a little tin.
I'm trying to teach you a new way
No.
to do it.
No. No.
A cleaner.
It's fine. And it's probably tastes good. It's just not a boil.
It's a boil.
Come on.
It's
Let's
a boil.
use words for what they really mean.
You know,
Quit deceiving people with changing vocabulary. Definitions have changed.
you sound kind of like the Pharisees.
No.
Yes, you do.
You sound like the Democrats trying to say infrastructure is childcare when it's like interstate road systems.
I don't want to go there.
Because you'll lose.
Well,
I'm just saying.
I don't know enough about infrastructure.
What's
and the
on my
terminology.
mind is people using words for things that those words weren't created to do.
I'm okay with it being a smoke boil.
It's just a boil.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's just a boil.
It's not just a boil.
Absolutely.
There's only steam
and I know,
in a
and
boil.
I
There's
know
not
what's going
smoke.
to happen too. I know that.
A steam boil. That's even better.
Well, hey,
I mean, if an air
there-
fryer is frying food, I think it's safe
It's
to
not
say.
frying food though.
But I know it's
It's
not.
like heating it.
Correct. But if it works the same way a fryer does,
It
and I'm
doesn't.
holding quotes here.
Yeah.
I'm never going to buy an air fryer.
Okay.
I'm going to fry the food in the grease because that's what I like the way it tastes. That's good. Am I going to buy a Traeger? Probably never, unless I'm going to buy it to smoke some meat. Probably not going to use it to steam boil some seafood.
get the
I'm
most,
going to cook
get the
it
most
in
out
a
of your
big pot.
get the most out of your machines. And if you haven't,
Hey, you know,
if
you
you
could-
haven't had anything out of
you
an air
put-
fryer,
Let me tell you right
I should
now.
try it.
you need to try it.
You could take that that little tin thing that you got that you put on, just pop your hood after you've driven a lot in your truck, and it'll heat that sucker up. You could have a boil on your engine.
You could, but I don't know that it's going to maintain that heat long enough. Whereas the Traeger maintains that consistent temperature.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Example number 2.
So he doesn't have one. Yeah, example number 2. What is it?
What did I say? 2 examples?
No, no.
Yeah, I didn't.
People using
And you don't know how a smoker works. I know exactly how a smoker
don't
works. I have a Yoder, the Cadillac of smokers, the robust, don't need a blanket to cook in the wintertime because the metal's thick and
I also have a Yoder smoker.
okay.
I prefer my Traegers.
I don't know about that.
Why do you need 2 smokers?
As good as just one.
One for smoking meat, the other one for
Steam boiling.
For boiling.
Yes.
So one for well, actually, so I have one. So if I'm actually smoking meat, I have my other one to do
Steam boils.
vegetables or whatever else.
So
I'm
I
smoking
did have
that-
a
that
friend
I'm
of
cooking
mine
on.
that's a friend of yours that like commented on that. This is suspect. Somebody needs to investigate.
Well, and I know that he's going to be commenting.
He should, because you have not provided a good defense.
And well, I think I did.
I like the improvisation. I love the fact that you guys were able to eat seafood when you didn't have all the right equipment. I'm all for that, and I'm sure it tasted fantastic, but it was just not a seafood boil.
It was a boil.
It wasn't. And that's false advertising.
It is not. So the food in the bottom of the pan is boiling at that time. You rotate it. Now that other food is boiling. It's a boil.
Okay. Okay.
And this other friend, if he is or is not a lawyer, I think in court that provides enough.
No, it doesn't. The jury would come back after minutes of deliberation.
So when you bake a pot roast, are you boiling a pot roast?
What do you mean?
Because everything in there, when you heat it up, all that water and stuff in there starts to boil. Is it a boil?
I think it has to be fully submerged, because otherwise it's roasting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't do mine.
So did you roast? Did you have a seafood roast?
No, a boil. And actually, I think it was chicken broth that was added into the water as well.
Okay.
Do you guys do that?
No. No.
You don't do that?
Not like with rice, like stuff like that,
Yeah.
but not like seafood.
No.
No, I use
No.
crab oil.
Yeah.
Literally says boil.
I think Traeger has their own crab boil seasoning for their smokers.
I think they do. It's all. I believe it's in the recipe book.
Oh man.
They call it a Cajun boil.
Hey, I will say this though: if I'm at that party,
I'm eating that food.
I'm eating that food.
I'm not knocking the food.
And I don't care how they cooked it.
Now I was going to do it, and y'all are not invited to my seafood boil.
Oh,
that was pretty funny there. I had to rib you on that, man. I've been waiting for a long time.
I figured, but that's okay.
That's good. Well, before we jump into our top 3, let's take a quick break from a word from our sponsor.
Sponsor. I got some Admiral's Pennant beard oil in the mail, and I tried to open it up, but then I realized it's not the lid right here. It's actually taped in the middle. So
That's fancy.
For those of you that are going there and buying that, all you've got to do is just open this thing up. I've got a dropper. It comes with a little bit of a...
So they actually come with an orifice reducer or the dropper.
Put
So whatever method you
couple
prefer.
drops in your hand and rub it in. Oh, I love that 1815, man. It smells so good.
You know the good thing though?
So
I can't
good.
smell you over here.
Yeah. That's good in a couple different ways. It's good because I don't stink, and it's good because this isn't overpowering. It's not like wearing cologne, but it's right under my nose, so.
That's the good stuff. Check it out.
AdmiralsPennant.com.
Are we back?
We're back.
And we're back.
All right. Thank you, Admiral's Pennant. Now,
AdmiralsPennant.com.
top 3 rifles. Is it what favorite rifles, best rifles to shoot? What is this?
So this is listener submitted
Okay.
by one of our biggest fans and a former guest of
And somebody who I'm probably going to have a problem with here shortly.
Hard Head Podcast. He said, I didn't pull the direct comment, but top 3 rifles. And he had a condition in there, I think. But yeah, top 3 rifles was his suggestion.
And I know he was trying to go with the Kalashnikov or the M4 AR platform. I think was his comment, was it not?
No, I'll explain that later when I'm discussing my top 3.
Okay.
All right. Why don't you go
No, I think Matt should go first.
first, Matt?
Nope.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, why don't you?
Nope.
No?
Nope. Somebody
right.
else go first.
Okay. Hey, I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
All right.
You go second.
Number 3. Are y'all going to argue about that too?
No.
Okay.
Number 3.
Or do you want me to go first? I'll go first. Okay.
Number 3 is an official Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle. That's right. Number 3 is from A Christmas Story.
Yes.
My favorite Christmas movie. One of them. We've had that discussion before. So yeah, but actually the first rifle I ever had was a BB gun.
Yeah.
So-
Most everybody.
Yeah.
I would actually like to point out that technically does not qualify as a rifle.
Because the barrel isn't rifled. It doesn't put a spin on the BB.
That's what constitutes a rifle.
Right. Well, thank
So
you for.
it's a BB gun.
I'm okay with it.
Oh, but so now we're just changing definitions, and now it's okay. But
Well, it has rifle in the
Title.
name title of the gun, so it's a rifle.
it's a BB gun. Go ahead.
It's both.
I have one as well.
Okay, good. Well,
I never owned one.
the
That's the one with the lever cock.
so
I went straight to that Crossman 760 10 pump pellet rifle.
I was in a shooting contest in Indian Guides in 2nd or 3rd grade. I don't remember. I won the whole thing, so I won that BB gun.
Did you get a big trophy?
Not that big.
Yeah.
No.
It's too big for his age to carry home.
Yeah. So, but I won my first gun ever, which is pretty cool. So, number 2 is the RPR, the Ruger Precision Rifle. You familiar with that one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Estimated price $1,300 to $2,100. Its weight is about 9.8 to 15.2 pounds, depending on what's on it.
Yeah. That's a really good platform. I know there's a lot of these long distance and competitive shooters coming out, and that's a mass produced decent platform for getting into that sport.
Yep.
Yeah, multiple calibers available.
No, I think the weight actually corresponds to the caliber. So I think your 22 Ruger Precision is going to be your 9 pounds, and then your larger caliber, whatever their large caliber would be the 15, because I don't think they can compensate for the various scopes or optics or accessories that you're going to put on there. But
Yeah.
Very good.
No, that's a really good platform.
And my number one is the 30-06 Remington bolt action rifle, because I own one, and that's what I kill all my Bambis with.
is that a 700?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It is.
Yep.
Yes.
It's actually one of the most popular rifles of all time.
And a staple from, I don't know, probably the 50s, 60s,
Somewhere, I think 60s.
all the way to today. I mean, that's a great.
Yeah. I love it. It does pack a punch. My dad gave it to me when I was about 12 to go deer hunting with, and I've hunted with it ever since. Deer, shot a turkey with it. I shot a jackrabbit with it once, and it obliterated it.
Turned into a puff.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That would happen.
Yeah.
Now, being that I've been through a lot of those long range courses, do you know where a lot of that recoil comes from? It's
The
I don't-
bullet.
it's the design of the stock.
Oh, really?
Okay.
So a lot of these newer platforms that come out are designed so that you have less felt recoil because of the way that the gun recoils into your shoulder straight back instead of
At an angle.
at
Canted.
an angle down. Yep. And so it feels a lot worse on those older rifles because of the way that they're designed.
So
Fun
you don't need to be shooting like a light recoil round like a 6.5. Then you could go back up to a big man round like a 30-06.
I don't know. 30-06 is a little slow for me, and it's a pretty slow.
Well, it depends on what grain you're shooting.
It's still pretty slow
Okay. I'm just
because
jabbing.
the grain of the bullet actually either speeds it up or slows it down. So if you're shooting a lighter grain, it's going to go faster. Whereas you're shooting a heavy grain, it's going to go
Yeah,
slower.
that's what I'm saying.
No,
You
that's
just
what- that's
get
not
a
what you're
100,
saying.
100 grain 30-06. You know, that thing will scream.
It might actually over twist and come apart, but whatever.
I know.
Just talking about terminology and this stuff.
Wait, this goes back, Troy, that when I was
Say the right thing.
I was looking at buying a rifle, and I'm like, I've made up my mind. I'm going with 30-06. Matt's like, 30-06, I'll do that. So now every time I get a chance to talk about 30-06, I do just to mess with him.
Well, in my
Great rifle.
It is, and my first rifle was a 30-06 pump action
Yeah.
Remington 7400.
742. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah,
Little preview.
Oh, you got the
A little preview.
Did your voice just crack? What is that?
I think that was a throwback or reminded me of Stewie.
Yes.
Whip.
Whip.
Cool whip.
All right, Matt, what you got on your top three?
So I'm gonna start with number 3, the M240 Bravo.
All right.
That's the Remington 700, isn't it?
No,
No.
nope. This is a
Oh, this is a squad weapon. That's the saw.
it's a crew serve weapon. So the saw is a squad automatic weapon, M249.
Yeah.
So this is and that's a 5.56. This is the 7.62.
Version of that.
Well, no, they're two completely different rifles. But,
Okay.
it's got an effective range of 800 meters. And I believe on the cyclic rate, I'm going to check my notes so I don't mess it up because there's going to be a bunch of Marines out there that are going to be upset. 650 rounds per minute on the cyclic. So you can just hold that thing down. And when you hear those things go off, whether it's a coax from a tank or you've got the actual crew served weapon that some of your machine gunners are firing, that is the most confidence building thing to
You know,
hear.
you've got like a force multiplier there.
Oh, it is.
That's belt fed.
Yeah. I mean, it terror into the enemy and comfort on our side, knowing that thing is putting that amount of lead downrange.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The M what?
M240.
240. Okay.
Yep. And then there's two different versions, the Golf, the Bravo, and then they've got the lightweight one that they shoot now. I'm not all up to date on all the new stuff that they've come out with,
Yeah.
but for my machine gunners out there,
Pretty awesome.
it is an awesome rifle. extremely cool.
Nice.
Belt fed, obviously.
Obviously. That's what the M stands for. Since we just name things like Boyle on a smoker.
Well, then explain to me the M9. But anyway, so number 2 is a Barber Creek 7BC, which stands for 7 Barber Creek. And it is a 300 Win Mag neck down to a 7mm. It's ballistically the same as a 28 Nosler, but the rounds are actually custom loaded from Barber Creek, and they're a lot cheaper than 28 Nosler rounds. And, you know, in a previous podcast, I mentioned going down to the school and you know, you shoot their guns and stuff like that. And had this one built to basically shoot anything this continent has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And extremely accurate, extremely precise, extremely well built. And I can go out with no question and shoot anything I need out to 1,000 yards. I think the effective range, depending on where you are elevation wise, is about 1,500 yards.
Wow.
And phenomenal guns. And however, they do, even with the design of the stock, because they have that stock design to where you're not feeling that recoil
as much.
as
bad as it could be.
Yeah, and they've got it designed so you stay behind the weapon, because, you know, a lot of shooters, you know, they'll put it, you know, in that right over here in their shoulder, you know, and when you're shooting, that actually throws the gun during recoil instead of having that recoil come straight back. So they've got that designed to where you actually put that the butt of the gun in the center of your pec, and that allows you to stay behind it and actually see your trace, your bullet trace as you're shooting, so you know where that impacted on the animal. So they're extremely good rifles.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my number 1, which is the Barber Creek 6.5 PRC.
So is that so the first one was BC7. Is this BC 6.5?
Nope, this is 6.5 PRC. So this round you can buy.
That's the name of the rifle?
It's the Barber Creek 6.5 PRC.
Okay.
So Barber Creek, I believe it's the Barber Creek 1400 is their rifle, and then you can get it in whatever caliber you want. And they've designed their own stocks, which I mentioned on the other one. So
Yeah.
it's their design that James designed for long range shooting. You know, when you're shooting, you don't want to put your thumb over, because again, that aids in throwing your shots off. And so they have little slots on the back of the heel or the back of the handle where you slide your thumb off, and it just kind of sits there comfortably, and you can squeeze those rounds off and be really accurate. And the PRC, which stands for Precision Rifle Caliber, in that 6.5, it's got a little more punch and a little more effective range than a Creedmoor, but it's less than that BC. So I mean, but you can, you know, you're taking bear, elk,
Yeah.
you know, black bear, elk, and stuff like that, and smaller with that rifle. But it's a lot more fun to shoot, whereas that 7BC is strictly, like, I would pull that out to go hunting. But the 6.5 I can sit there and I can practice with. It's not, the recoil is not bad at all. You can sit there and shoot that thing all day. And like I said, they're just super fun and accurate guns to shoot.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think I've heard you say this before. All that accuracy when you're going to go and target practice and just shoot long ranges, and you can do that with a Barber Creek rifle and off the shelf ammo.
Yes.
Factory ammo.
Yep. So this factory ammo, you know, and what we're seeing is kind of like my experience last deer season where I missed that deer, is they're having a lot of issues with quality control because people are buying ammo so fast, they're trying to keep up. So there's a lot of ammo that gets missed.
Yeah.
But with every box, you're going to have maybe one flyer. So what I shoot is the 147 grain Hornady match grade. And so the match grade stuff, they inspect like 1 out of every 100 rounds. So your quality control is a little bit tighter on those. But you're still going to end up with probably one flyer per box. And when I talk a flyer, you may be 6 to 8 inches off or something like that.
At distance.
At 1,000.
Yeah.
So your short range stuff, you really don't need to worry about too much. 300 yards, you might be an inch or two off.
If I was shooting at 1,000 yards, all of the rounds in that box would be flyers. It would not be my fault.
But that's why you would need to go to Barber Creek so they can teach you that you are the problem.
I don't have to go to Barber Creek to figure that out.
But they're super accurate, super cool rifles. And I basically all the other guns in my safe, as far as hunting rifles, have become obsolete. Other than, the ones that have been heirlooms or have, I have a personal attachment to them, like my first rifle, which was that pump action Remington 30-06.
All right. That's good, man.
I like
That's good. All right. I'm going to start with number 3. I'm going to go against the grain here and start with number 3.
Very good.
The Tikka T3X bolt action rifle. It comes in multiple calibers, but it's a very lightweight bolt action, relatively accurate. I'm not talking Barber Creek accurate, but for your typical hunter that's going to go out to 200, 300, 400 yards, it will definitely suffice, depending on the caliber that you're shooting. And sweet, it's just a sweet gun. I enjoy shooting it.
I do like those Tikka actions.
Pretty cool.
They're super smooth. I believe they're built off the Seiko, are they not?
They are saying Tikka and Seiko, same company. So, but yeah, Swedish. Seiko, Swedish.
Swedish?
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. Yeah, so I guess I can nickname my gun Meatball.
I was going to say Japanese, but
Well, I think they're manufactured in Europe. Why don't you check that out, Jamie? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna say the number 2 of the top 3 rifles is the Kalashnikov 47, AK-47.
yes.
For a number of different reasons. Reliability, somewhat, and mass producibility. They're everywhere. Everywhere. In a lot of different conflicts and been around. They started the design in 1947, hence the 47. But I don't think it hit production, wasn't approved for production until like 1949. And they're everywhere.
Featured in Red Dawn. I thought for sure you were going to talk about that.
Well, of course, they're everywhere. In all the good movies. Like Red Dawn.
Now, is that the first one or the second?
The only one.
Okay.
Yes.
The only one. But yeah, that dude was genius, I think, as far as that goes. Just a great design, exactly what they needed for mass production, reliability, and throws a pretty big hunk of lead as well. So,
That it does.
yes, that's my number 2. Number 1 is that Remington 760 pump action rifle. Came out in the late 50s, early 60s. I grew up shooting one, love it. They have a 742 Woodmaster, which is based on the same platform, but it's a semi-automatic version. That's a pretty good gun too.
Yeah. A lot of police used to carry that.
Yeah, and actually the Remington, they have a after a certain number of years they upgraded it, and it's like the 7600 versus the 760.
Yep.
And the 7400, but they make a 7615, which they just came out with in the 2000s, which is a tactical pump version for law enforcement, which is pretty interesting that they still, pump action rifle. But my dad's dad, he owned a semi-automatic 22, but every gun he owned outside of that was a pump because he didn't want the opportunity for a jam or for a fail to cycle. So everything. So all of his rifles were pump action. All of his bigger caliber stuff was pump action. So that's how I ended up getting this one. And I don't know. I just have so much confidence when it's in my hands because I've put a lot of lead down range, and it's just a blast to shoot and a great design. Remingtons fit me really well for some reason. And I don't know if I grew up around it or it's just
Probably what you're comfortable with.
yeah. So
what feels right to you.
Yep. So that would be my top 3 there. Tika, AK, and the Remington.
Right on.
Yep.
All right. Well, that leads us.
What?
Move your mic up a little bit.
Am I cutting out?
A little bit.
Am I cutting out?
Either that or get fired up.
That leaves us.
Let me bring this up here because I've got a good word.
CJ.
And we want to hear it.
I know you do.
That's right.
Oh.
I think,
Hey, just pull the lever on your
I
chair.
don't like doing that. Yeah, I don't like, that one doesn't work.
It's on the other side.
I'm glad you know my chair. Somebody's been sitting in.
They're
my-
always on the right-hand side.
That's all the way down.
Okay.
Goldilocks. Been sitting in your chair.
Oh, my
Whenever I
goodness.
want to rest and not get a lot of work done.
All right.
Good word.
You want me to bring it to you?
Bring it.
Yeah, let's bring it.
My good word for today is sometimes the new way is better.
Oh,
Is this the boil?
I think this has to do with steam boiling stuff.
And it's coming from Luke 5:33-39. And they said to him, John's disciples often fast and pray, and so do the disciples of the Pharisees, but yours go on eating and drinking. Jesus answered, can you make the friends of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them. In those days, they will fast. And then he goes on to tell them a parable. It says, no one tears a piece out of a new garment to patch an old one. Otherwise, they will have torn the new garment, and the patch from the new will not match the old. And no one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the new wine will burst the skins, the wine will run out, and the wineskins will be ruined. And so, kind of what he's getting at there is, Jesus responded by saying that that his disciples should be joyful because the bridegroom is currently with them. It was not the time for fasting, but the time for rejoicing. So the Jewish leaders, this was a major shift from what they thought fasting should be. And, he gave 3 examples, which I didn't read, but they are in 33-39. They're in those verses. And he was trying to help them understand of how new and old things do not always mix well. And he was implying that a lot of people always want to hold on to the past when they are presented with something new. And so it kind of went along with the new way to do a boil,
Oh, jeez.
and that we shouldn't cling to those traditions when there's a new way of doing it. Not that the old way is terrible, but the new way might be just as good.
Okay. But it reminds me of a joke. Similar to, like, why do we do things? Like, our expectations aren't always of what's going to happen, especially our interaction with God, right? Like, if we pray for something and we expect it to be answered in a certain way. And I think in this case, the Pharisees were so caught up in their traditions that they were blind to see that what they've been praying for, the Messiah, this is how we do it. This is what we're focused on. And he actually showed up, and they were still like, you're not going along with the traditions. Of course, they didn't know he was the Messiah.
Right.
But this is why we're doing this. And they were just too blind to see it. And it reminds me of a joke about a flood that happened, and the guy living in the house had to crawl up on the roof just to get out of the flood waters. And he started praying for God to rescue him from the situation. And, a neighbor, came by and in a boat and said, hey, hop in the boat and I'll take you to safety. And he's like, no, I've been praying to God. God's going to rescue me from the situation. And he's like, okay. And he drove off in the boat. And then a little bit later, a helicopter came by. Hey, we climb on the ladder here. We'll get you off the roof. And he's like, no, I've been praying to God. And ended up, the guy died, right? And he's there in heaven, like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, hey, dummy, I sent you a boat and then a helicopter, And so a lot of times in that case, hey, we're looking for a certain thing, or we're fasting for a certain reason, and Jesus is like, hey, this is what I'm what you've been fasting for. Like, I'm here. And they're like, oh no, that's just, people shouldn't be rejoicing now. They should still follow the old traditions. And a lot of times we're so caught up in what we're doing that we don't see what God's trying to do.
Yep. And so just to finish it off, verse 39, and no one after drinking old wine wants the new, for they say, the old is better.
I'm not saying that food was bad, Matt. I'm just telling you, you can't
This
call
new
it
way,
that.
this new way to boil
That's not.
is better.
Oh, it may be a new way to cook seafood on a smoker.
To boil seafood. Yes.
No, that's just not.
Anyway, that's my good word. Is sometimes the new way is better. Not always, but in this instance, biblically and in our discussion, the new way is better.
I like to see you try to steam boil some spaghetti. Probably not gonna happen.
Well, you would boil spaghetti. You don't.
Just like you boil seafood.
I think what we witnessed just now was one of those situations where somebody's like, I have something I really am all for, and I'm going to go find a scripture and wrap it around that and say, if you disagree with me, you disagree with the Bible.
That's actually not the case. It actually just kind of appeared to me. So I was actually looking for something along those lines, like just a new, a new way, and we get so caught up in our traditions and the old way of doing things. And, even myself, the way that the Marine Corps used to be, back when, the Vietnam guys and prior were going through, and they were getting beaten and all this kind of stuff. And we figured out that that's probably not the best way to train people.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to have their confidence when you go into combat, because that guy's going to be thinking, man, as soon as that guy gets out in front of me, I'm going to, friendly fire, whoops.
Yeah.
So, but, so I was that way too, and I look at the things that they're doing now, even though I'm not a part of it, and I get irritated because it's not the old way that we used to do things. But hey, maybe these new ways, some of them are better, not all of them.
Yeah.
But some of the new things that they're doing, I think, are better.
Yeah. That's fair.
So anyway, that's my good word.
Yeah. Thank you for your good word.
Right on. I like it. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone, to another exciting episode.
Very exciting. It was thrilling.
Yes.
It's thrilling.
That's a good word for it. All right. If you have not subscribed, please do so. You can watch us in person on YouTube and Rumble. Listen to us anywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and the like.
I'd like to know if you think I'm being unrealistic with Matt's use of the term boil. So
He's definitely not
hashtag
being practical.
join the conversation
He might
in
be.
the comments.
Sounds pretty realistic to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Visit us at www.hardheadedpodcast.com. Share with your
And-
friends, like, subscribe.
Give us an email. Ask us a question.
See you next week.
Do something.
Yes.
I could just see it now. Come over to my house for a seafood boil. Hashtag Luke 5.
33 through 39.